Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're taking a look at a really fascinating stack of sources you sent over.
Hmm.
Articles, research papers, even some personal notes.
Hmm.
And they're all grappling with this question, that we all think about. What really drives success and failure
Yeah.
in our finances, in our lives?
Yeah, and we love those simple stories, don't
Oh,
we?
absolutely. The lone genius, the innovator who just worked tirelessly,
Yeah.
the bootstrap story.
Right. And then failure is just, oh, they made bad choices or they were lazy.
Exactly. But our mission today really is to unpack the incredible complexity behind all that.
It's true. We really look for those clear cause and effect lines, those tidy
Yeah.
narratives. Yet, as these sources really show, every outcome in life is guided by forces other than individual effort. So this deep dive is all about those kind of hidden roles of luck and risk. They're so intertwined.
Totally intertwined. And actually, to kick us off, there's this great idea from NYU professor Scott Galloway, perfect for this.
Oh.
He says, nothing is as good or as bad as it seems. And you can think of luck and risk as like siblings.
Siblings. I like that.
Yeah, two sides of the same coin. Really, you can't actually separate them.
That's a powerful way to put it. These siblings, luck and risk, they're forces mostly outside our control, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
But they just heavily influence where we end up. The world, as these sources suggest, it's just way too complex to think that 100% of what we do dictates 100% of what happens.
Right.
Sometimes those outside factors, the things we don't choose or even see coming, they can matter way more than all the careful planning we do.
So if they're that powerful, why are we, as humans, so resistant to seeing it? Is it just needing control or?
I think it's a mix, definitely partly control, but also these forces, randomness, pure chance.
Mhm.
They're just so hard to measure,
Yeah.
so hard to really accept. It's easier to just gloss over them. We prefer to think we're fully in the driver's seat, that our actions alone shape our destiny. It just feels better, more empowering, even if it's not the whole story.
Okay. Let's dig into this with a case study then.
Hmm?
It really brings this stuff to life.
Uh-huh.
We're talking about, well, one of the most successful people ever, Bill Gates. Now, obviously, brilliant guy, driven, visionary, all that.
Sure, no doubt.
But let's look at this 1 in a million head start he had.
Okay. This starts back in 1968. Gates is 13, attending Lakeside School near Seattle.
Right.
And the really extraordinary thing, as the sources point out, is that Lakeside was one of the only high schoolers in the entire world
The world.
that had a computer back then. It almost sounds made up today.
It really does.
Yeah.
And how do they even get it? It wasn't like some big corporate donation or something.
No, not at all. That's the amazing part. It was a math and science teacher, Bill Dougal. He'd been a WWII Navy pilot, and he just had this foresight. He believed kids needed real-world experience, especially with computers. So 1968, he goes to the Lakeside School Mothers Club.
The Mothers Club, like bake sales and stuff.
Exactly, the ones who raised money from rummage sales. He asks them for just $3,000
$3,000.
to lease a teletype Model 30 computer.
That's incredible.
And it wasn't just any old machine. It was hooked up to a General Electric mainframe for time-sharing.
Which was brand new tech then, right?
Super new.
Yeah.
Gates himself said time-sharing was only invented in '65. So Dougal was incredibly forward-looking.
So forward-looking.
And get this. Most university graduate schools back then didn't have access to a computer as advanced as what Bill Gates had in 8th grade.
That's just a staggering advantage. So what did he do with it? Just mess around?
Oh, no, he devoured it. He met Paul Allen there, and they basically lived in that computer room.
Uh-huh.
Nights, weekends, learning everything. Allen even remembered Gates showing him a Fortune magazine, asking, "What do you think it's like to run a Fortune 500 company?"
Already thinking big.
That ambition, starting in that unique environment, that led to Microsoft. Now worth, what, over $1 trillion?
Incredible. So let's try and quantify that luck. Like you said, 1968. How many high school age kids were there?
Okay, globally, roughly 303 million.
300 million. Wow.
In the U.S., about 18 million. Washington State, maybe 270,000. Seattle area, a bit over 100,000.
And Lakeside.
Just 300 students.
So 303 million down to 300.
Yep. That puts Gates at roughly 1 in a million high schoolers worldwide who went to a school that had both the money and the vision to get that computer.
1 in a million.
And Gates knows it. He told Lakeside's graduating class in 2005, straight up, if there had been no Lakeside, there would have been no Microsoft.
Huh.
So yes, staggering intelligence, hard work, vision, absolutely. But he also acknowledges he had that 1 in a million head start.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? If someone like Gates, admits this huge slice of luck,
Right.
what about the flip side? What happens when those same random forces work against someone just as talented? And that brings us to Kent Evans.
Ah, Ken Evans, Bill Gates' best friend back in 8th grade.
Yeah.
And according to Gates himself, Kent was the best student in the class.
Wow.
Just as good with computers as Gates and Paul Allen. They actually built a program together to sort out the school's really complex class scheduling, and apparently it worked perfectly.
It's kind of striking hearing Gates talk about him, even remembering his phone number after all those years.
Yeah, 525-7851. He said he called him countless times.
And apparently, unlike Allen maybe, Kent had that same business drive as Gates, that endless ambition.
Totally. Gates remembered Kent carrying this big briefcase like a lawyer's.
In 8th grade.
Yeah, and always scheming, as Gates put it, about the future. Should we be CEOs? What kind of impact could we have? Generals, ambassadors, whatever it was, they figured they'd do it together.
They didn't.
No. Tragically, Kent Evans died, a mountaineering accident, before he even graduated high school.
Oh, man.
Based on everything Gates said, he could easily have been a founding partner of Microsoft right alongside Gates and Allen. Same skills, same drive.
And the odds there, they're just as stark, aren't they? Mountaineering deaths.
Yeah, incredibly rare, especially for a high schooler. Only about 3 dozen total mountaineering deaths in the U.S. each year.
So the odds of that happening to him specifically?
Roughly 1 in a million. Same odds, different direction.
Wow. 1 in a million luck for Gates, 1 in a million risk for Evans.
Exactly. That's the core lesson here, I think, from these sources. Gates gets the lucky break, Evans gets the unlucky one.
Right.
Their paths were so aligned, then just diverged completely. It perfectly shows how outcomes can be guided by forces totally outside our effort.
And they're so similar, those odds. You really can't believe in Gates's luck without also respecting Evans's risk.
You absolutely have to. They're two sides of that same coin, like you said earlier.
Which brings us back to how we process all this.
Mm-hmm.
We really do prefer to think success is all skill and hard work.
Oh, definitely.
And failure. Just bad decisions or laziness. It's cleaner, simpler, but dangerously incomplete.
It really is. You know, the Nobel Prize-winning economist Robert Shiller,
Yeah.
he once said the thing he most wanted to know about investing but couldn't was the exact role of luck in successful outcomes.
Even he couldn't figure it out.
Right, and he said it's not just hard to quantify, it's almost seen as impolite to suggest someone's success involved luck. It kind of diminishes their effort in our eyes.
That makes total sense. Like if I told you, okay, statistically, maybe 10 billionaires out there got there, mostly through pure chance.
You'd probably nod and say, yeah, makes sense statistically.
Right. But then if I ask you to name which 10?
Oof. Suddenly it feels, I don't know, wrong, demoralizing, as one source put it. We don't want to point fingers and say, you were just lucky.
Yeah. And this stretches into our economic lives too, right? There's that research by Bhaskar Mazumdar.
Oh, the study on brothers' incomes. Yeah, fascinating stuff.
Their incomes are more correlated than their height or weight.
Which points strongly towards shared upbringing, opportunities, the environment they grew up in, factors largely outside their individual control later on.
But the people who benefit most from that kind of start, they often deny it applies to them personally.
It's that bias again, isn't it?
And we do it to ourselves too. The double standard. Someone else fails, bad decisions, we fail. Oh, that was the dark side of risk, bad luck, circumstances.
Absolutely. We create these wild narratives, as one source calls them, to justify our choices when things go wrong, rather than just admitting, hey, maybe that was just random chance.
And Forbes magazine isn't exactly running covers celebrating investors who made smart calls but got unlucky.
Oh, no, definitely not. They celebrate the ones who made maybe reckless bets but got lucky. The outcome trumps the process in the storytelling.
Which is so dangerous when you're trying to learn. You see success, you see failure, and you think, okay, do what she did, avoid what he did.
But what if what she did was pure luck? And what he did was a perfectly sensible decision that just ran into bad risk? How can you tell?
You often can't, especially not at the time. That line between inspiringly bold and foolishly reckless, sometimes it's paper
A
thin.
millimeter thick, yeah.
Yeah.
And only visible with hindsight. Risk and luck are total doppelgangers.
Let's look at a few examples of this thin line from the sources.
Okay.
Like Cornelius Vanderbilt, building his railroad empire, apparently just ignored laws left and right.
Yeah, the story goes, his advisor warned him, this breaks the law, and Vanderbilt supposedly shot back, what do I care about the law? Ain't I got the power?
Right. And because he succeeded wildly, we look back and maybe call it sage wisdom or, aggressive strategy.
But the source asks a good question. How does society end up normalizing rule breaking after success validates it? Is that really a good lesson?
Probably not. And John D. Rockefeller, similar story, right?
Huh?
His tactics, a judge called him a common thief.
But historians often frame it as cunning business smarts. Again, the outcome colors the perception of the actions.
It really does. It shifts the narrative completely.
Then there's Benjamin Graham, the father of value investing, Warren Buffett's mentor.
The guru.
Right. But the sources reveal that most of his actual investment success came from owning a huge chunk of Jayako's stock,
Correct.
which, by his own rules, violated basically everything he taught about diversification.
Oh, wow. So he broke his own rules.
Massively. And even he asked, was that one lucky break or one supremely shrewd decision? And the killer question, can we tell them apart?
That really highlights it, doesn't it?
Mhm.
The theory versus the messy reality, maybe involving one giant lucky outlier.
Exactly. And one more quick one, Mark Zuckerberg.
Turning down Yahoo's billion-dollar offer for Facebook back in '06.
Right. Praised as a genius, he saw the future.
Uh-huh.
Then Yahoo itself gets slammed later for turning down Microsoft's huge buyout offer. They should have cashed out.
So the exact same type of decision, turning down a big offer.
Is brilliant for one, terrible for the other, based purely on what happened next. It just shows how hard it is to judge those calls without hindsight.
Market timing, valuation. It's just so unpredictable.
It really underscores that doppelganger effect. Inspiringly bold, foolishly reckless.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just can't know which is which until much later.
Okay, so
Hmm.
what does this all mean for you listening right now? Trying to navigate your own life, your finances. How do we find something useful in all this complexity?
Yeah, that's the key question, isn't it? Because the core problem, as the sources keep saying, is just how hard it is to untangle luck, skill, and risk.
It's a huge challenge if you're trying to learn how to manage money or really just make good life decisions.
Definitely. But there are a couple of recommendations, sort of shifts in perspective that come through in the sources.
Okay, like what?
First, maybe cultivate a bit more humility. Humility about outcomes.
Humility of outcome, okay.
Yeah, just recognizing that even your biggest wins probably had some good fortune baked in. And your worst losses might not have been entirely your fault. Maybe just bad luck.
There's that parent's letter to their son.
Oh, yeah, that was powerful. Not all success is due to hard work, and not all poverty is due to laziness. Keep this in mind when judging people, including yourself.
Wow, that really hits home.
It's crucial, that kind of humility. It means maybe you shift how you judge yourself, too. Not just by the result, but by the process.
Like, did I make the best call I could with what I knew then, even if the coin flip went the wrong way?
Exactly. Did you have a sound process? That's maybe more important than whether you got lucky or unlucky on any single outcome.
Okay, that makes sense. And the second recommendation?
Focus less on specific individuals, especially the extreme examples.
Like the billionaires and CEOs we were just talking about. Or the massive failures.
Yeah. It's tempting to study them, but their experiences are often the least applicable to most people's lives. They're outliers by definition. Their level of luck or risk is often off the charts.
So where should you look instead?
Look for broader patterns, general principles of success and failure that apply more commonly.
More. Average lessons.
Kind of, yeah. Think about that historian mentioned, Frederick Lewis Allen. He focused on the average median American, how they lived, what worked, what didn't over time.
Right.
There are probably more relevant, actionable takeaways in those broad observations than in studying the extreme outliers who grabbed the headlines. They might just be riding these wild waves of luck or risk that you'll never experience.
So less focus on the extreme stories, more on the common patterns.
Got it.
Got it.
Yeah.
So as we wrap this up then, let's circle back to that Scott Galloway idea we started with.
Nothing is as good or as bad as it seems.
Exactly. And Bill Gates had that quote too, right? Success is a lousy teacher.
Yeah, it seduces smart people into thinking they can't lose.
So when things are going incredibly well for you, maybe pause and realize, okay, this isn't quite as amazing as it feels.
Right. You're not invincible. And if you admit luck played a part in getting you there, then you absolutely have to respect luck's sibling, risk, because it can turn things around just as fast.
But the flip side is true too. Failure can also be a lousy teacher.
Definitely. It can trick smart people into thinking their decisions were awful, when maybe it was just, the unforgiving realities of risk, as one source put it.
So the practical advice there when you're dealing with potential failure or risk,
Arrange things, your finances, maybe other parts of your life, so that one bad investment or one missed goal doesn't completely wipe you out.
right, so you can stay in the game, keep playing.
Exactly. Have enough room for error, enough of a safety net so that risk doesn't take you out permanently.
So really, understanding this interplay of luck and risk, it can fundamentally change how you see everything, your own wins and losses,
And other people's too.
and maybe foster something we could all use more of.
Yeah.
Humility when we win,
Mhm.
and resilience when we face setbacks.
Definitely. Think about how that shift in perspective could actually reshape the choices you make, your empathy, even your whole journey forward.